She was less than an hour away from getting dumped. Her boyfriend was about to say the words that would devastate her for months and years to come. Until she asked him 3 seemingly harmless little questions that changed everything about the way he saw her, how he felt about her, and even how he thought about relationships, and pulled him back from making the biggest mistake of both of their lives. Hi, I'm Slade Shaw, and today I'm going to share with you the exact reason why men pull away, and the harmless questions you can ask any man that will wake up overwhelming feelings of love and devotion for you, pushing any thoughts about other women out of his mind, and giving him absolute certainty that you are the only woman he wants to be with, now and forever. And I know this all might sound crazy to you right now, just as it did to the hundreds of women I've shared these questions with over the past 11 months. Women like Angela, who used them on a guy she just met at a bar, just to see what would happen, and him practically begging her to go out with him a few minutes later. Or Carmen, who texted these questions to a guy who'd suddenly stopped calling her 3 weeks before, which got him to ask for one more chance to go out with him, and soon after to be his girlfriend. Or Amy, who used them on her husband who'd been distant for years, focusing more and more on his work and treating their marriage like an afterthought. The day after she asked him these questions over dinner, he surprised her by taking time off from work and booking a vacation for the two of them to Cancun, where he re-proposed and asked her if she'd do him the honor of renewing their vows together. You see, these harmless questions have a powerful effect over a man, because without him realizing what's happening, they trigger powerful emotions and make him feel intensely bonded to you. They give him a desperate urgency to lock you down, and they get him to reveal what he's really thinking and what he really wants, even if he's always been closed off and distant in the past. Now, you should know these harmless questions aren't questions about how he's feeling, what he's thinking, or what he wants in a relationship. So if you're thinking about having a talk with a guy about what's in his mind and how he's feeling, don't. Any direct questions about your relationship, no matter how subtle you think you're being, feel to a man like you're pressuring him, even if that's not your intention. And making a man feel pressured is a surefire way to turn pulling away into running away fast. Instead, you need to ask him these harmless, indirect questions, which get him to reveal his hand and open up without him realizing what he's doing. Now, I'm going to share the harmless questions that make any man obsess over you in just a moment, but first, I want you to meet my personal hero, my sister Kat, because it's her that led me to discover what makes a man pull away from some women and completely devote himself to others. You see, Kat's always been the one person who was there for me no matter what. When other kids would pick on me in elementary school, Kat stepped in and threatened to kick their butts. When I struggled in my last year of high school, she set aside several nights a week to help me with my homework so I could get into college. And for as long as I can remember, she's always been my biggest support, fan, and cheerleader all rolled into one. So when she called me one night and asked me for my help with this guy she's been dating, I felt like I was letting down the most important person in my life. Someone who'd never let me down even once. Because even though I'd been a men's dating coach for the past 6 years and had studied everything from psychology to communication to the biology of emotions, all my knowledge and experience couldn't help her with what she needed more than anything at that moment. You see, Kat wasn't exactly ugly. I mean, I may be biased because she's my sister, but if I'm being honest, I'd say her looks were about average. Still, I thought she was a major catch. She was kind and generous, a good listener, she had a good job, and she was just plain fun to be around. So naturally, I thought she'd have her pick of whatever guy she wanted. But when she called me that night, she told me a very different story. She'd been going out with this guy, Ryan, for the past 5 months. I met him when she brought him home for Thanksgiving, and they seemed really good together. But now, just a few weeks later, she told me he was pulling back. I don't know what it is, she said. I haven't met a guy like Ryan in years, maybe ever. When we first met, he was so attentive and kind and thoughtful, he went out of his way to show me how important I was to him. And I totally felt comfortable and connected to him. And because everything was so natural and easy, and there wasn't any game playing, I assumed he was as crazy about me as I was about him. But lately, I don't know, something's changed. He seems preoccupied when we're together. He doesn't respond to my calls or texts right away like he used to. We used to talk playfully about a future together, but now whenever I do, he changes the subject or deflects it with a joke. And he makes these little comments and jokes that make me feel like he's trying to distance himself from me. I've tried to talk to him about it, but every time I do, he says he's tired or just stressed about work. I don't want to be the naggy girlfriend, so I haven't brought it up with him yet. But at the same time, I don't want to be the girl who doesn't respect herself enough to confront him. I can't shake this feeling like he's just biding his time with me while he keeps his eye out for someone better to come along. At first I thought maybe I was crazy and was seeing something that wasn't there, but this isn't the first time this has happened to me with a guy. They start off open and eager, and then out of nowhere the guy will close off, make some excuse, and either fade away or say we need time apart. I'm just starting to worry that I'll never find that great relationship filled with mutual love and respect like mom and dad have. When this happened before, I used to tell myself there was something wrong with the guy, like he's not emotionally available, or he's got commitment issues, or he's scared of intimacy. But some of those guys, like my ex Alex from college, remember him? He told me he wasn't ready for a relationship, but then he got engaged to the next girl he dated, and they've been happily married for years. So I can't help wondering where I'm going wrong. Ryan has so many wonderful qualities, and we have such a special connection that if there's anything I can do to stop our relationship from going over a cliff, I want to do it. I know you've helped lots of men with their relationships, so I thought you might be able to give me some advice. What do you think I should do? As I sat on my bed listening to her on the other end of the phone, I had a knot in my gut and a lump in my throat because I recognized myself in her description of Ryan's behavior. I'd actually been that guy with some of the women in my life. I knew exactly how Ryan must have felt with my sister. And I knew that once I felt like that with a woman, no logical reason why we should be together, and no amount of pressure or convincing her could change the way I felt. The weird part was, I didn't really know why I felt like that with some women and not with others, so I was at a loss for what to tell her. I said something about her being a great girl and how if he couldn't see that it was his loss, but I knew those were just empty words that were small comfort for an amazing woman who so badly wanted to hang on to the man she felt deeply connected to. I felt so helpless knowing there was nothing I could do to take that pain away, so I told her I'd do some research and we'd talk again in the next week or two. After we hung up, I decided to do an internet search to see what I could learn. There were lots of books and articles and blog posts, but it was all just the usual junk about spicing things up with a new outfit or hairstyle, or trying something in bed I didn't think my sister would be comfortable with, without any satisfying answers to the question of why men pull away. Still, I believed in my heart that there must be something she could do to get Ryan to devote himself to her and their relationship the way I knew she deserved. Because I knew some women were just constantly having men fall head over heels for them, proposing to them, even stalking them. And these women weren't the best looking or the fittest, but they had something that gave men tunnel vision when it came to them. Men who used to say they didn't believe in monogamy, that it was unnatural, were suddenly loyal, devoted boyfriends and husbands who couldn't help expressing their absolute delight in being with their woman. So I knew there had to be a way to break the cycle of constant rejection that was eating away at my sister's sense of self-worth and making it harder and harder for her to get the love she deserved. And if I could do it in time to save her relationship with Ryan, I could save her years of suffering and hoping to find another guy she connected with. I realized that if I was going to help Kat out, I'd need to go to the source. And that's when I got an idea. Having coached men for years, I knew I had an email list of thousands of guys who would be more than happy to answer my questions. These guys had already shared the most intimate details of their inner lives with me, their fears, their failures, their insecurities around women and dating, and I knew I could trust them to be completely honest with me. So before I went to bed, I sent a mass email out to see who would answer a few questions for me. The next morning, my inbox was flooded with responses. It was only 8 a.m. and already 318 men had written me back saying they'd love to talk. By noon, that number was closer to 700, and by 6 p.m. that night, I had 1,218 messages from men saying they'd be happy to help. I wrote 18 questions asking these men why they pulled away from certain women, how they felt, and what was different with the women they felt completely devoted to. I got over 700 responses, and as I read them over that week and took notes, I noticed some startling patterns. The same answers were appearing over and over again, often with the same exact words and phrases, and the more responses I got, the clearer the patterns became. I dug deeper into their responses, and by the end of the week, I couldn't believe the story their answers told. I'd made 3 discoveries that painted a clear picture of why men pull away and what a woman can do about it to turn his feelings around, and wake up the part of him that wants to be a loyal and devoted partner who worships his woman as his queen. Now, I want you to pay close attention to this next part, particularly to discovery number 3, since this is the most important part of the presentation, because it's the third discovery that is the key to the harmless questions that make any man feel intensely bonded and desperately drawn to any woman. Discovery number 1. Men want a secure, loving relationship as much as, if not more than, women do. I know it can seem like a lot of men just want sex and are scared of deeper intimacy and commitment, but every single man I've talked to has said that sure, he likes sex, but deep down inside, he'd really like to find one special girl to be his best friend and partner. Some men will hide this desire around other guys because they don't want to appear soft or feminine. Others have a string of one-night stands to protect themselves from getting hurt. But even as they do, they feel lonely and empty inside, knowing it's just a substitute for what they really want. Deep connection and intimacy with a partner. Discovery number 2. Men need certain very specific things to commit and stay committed to a woman with their whole heart. For women, committing more deeply to a man is a natural extension of enjoying his company, sharing common values and viewpoints, and having sexual chemistry. That's because women's brains are wired to release bonding hormones when they're with a man they're attracted to, and especially when they're having sex with him. But men don't have this same mechanism in their brain. So a man doesn't automatically bond to a woman just because he likes spending time with her, is attracted to her, and is sleeping with her. So no matter how well things are going, a man needs one more ingredient, something which sets off his male bonding instincts and pushes him over the edge. From, I like spending time with this woman, to seeing her as the only woman for him, a woman he'd be miserable without. Without this missing ingredient, even if your man commits to you with his words and actions, in his mind, he's not really committed. That primal part of his brain is always on the lookout for someone else to come along that can satisfy that deep desire he has for the one. What is this missing ingredient a man needs to commit to a woman with his whole heart? That brings us to discovery number 3. Discovery number 3, pulling away is a man's way of finding out if you're really the one for him. There are a number of reasons why a man will pull away from a woman. Sometimes he feels like things are moving too quickly and he wants some space. Yes, even if he's the one that got things moving so quickly in the first place. Sometimes he's scared of getting hurt and wants reassurance that you'll be there for him. Sometimes he's just busy or preoccupied with something and it really does have nothing to do with you. But no matter what the reason is, they all have one thing in common. All men will pull away at one point or another in the course of dating or in a relationship. And when he does, whether it's when you first meet him or after weeks or months or many years, it creates what I call a critical moment. That is, how you react when he pulls away is critical to whether he sees you as the one or just the one for now. You could think of it like a test that men unconsciously use to find out if you're really the one. And while a lot of women see this as a big frustration, it's an incredible opportunity for any woman who gets it and knows what to do, because through my research, I discovered what I call dream girls. That is, women that men fall over themselves to prove their devotion and loyalty to distinguish themselves at this critical point by behaving entirely differently from other women. You see, when most women sense a man is pulling away, they do one of two things. They either try to talk to him about it and find out what's going on, or they pull back themselves in the hope that he'll fill the vacuum and come back to them. But neither of these approaches work, because while you might see wanting to talk about your feelings as good communication, a man who's not ready sees it as pressure. And anytime he senses that you're trying to pressure him in your relationship, even if you're not, it makes him feel panicked and want to retreat even further. And while the second option, pulling back yourself to let him come to you, might seem like a good idea, a man will think you're either playing games or are actually cold and uninterested in him. Suddenly, you're not the vibrant, open, feminine woman he was initially attracted to, and he quickly loses interest. But dream girls know how to read a man's true reasons for pulling away, and simply give him what he needs at exactly the right time in exactly the right way, even if he doesn't know what that need is. The harmless questions tell you exactly what his reasons are for pulling away without having to ask him directly, so you don't trigger his defensiveness and further withdrawal, but instead send a flood of bonding hormones through his brain, so he feels more connected and attached to you than he ever has to a woman in his life, because he can rest assured that he's found the rare woman who gets him completely. A week after our chat, I called Kat excitedly and told her about what I'd discovered, and I gave her some questions to ask him. She said it made a lot of sense, but she was skeptical. Still, things hadn't improved, and she didn't know what else to do, so she said she'd give it a try. 2 days later, she called me back absolutely elated. I mean, she was so happy, she sounded high. She said his turnaround was instant. They were having brunch and she casually dropped the questions into their conversation, and just like that, she saw a change in the way he looked at her. He became suddenly attentive, and he started showing her more affection and complimenting her. We went for a walk afterwards, and he had this look in his eye like he was wrapped up in some powerful emotions, she told me. Then he took me by my shoulders, turned me to face him, and looked into my eyes. I held my breath because I didn't know what to expect. And then he said, "Kat, I don't tell you this enough, but you were the most important part of my life. I feel so lucky to have met you, and I don't know what I'd do without you." My body wilted with emotional release. It was all I'd wanted him to say for months, and he was so sincere and even a little nervous, which was so cute. And I'd never felt more present and more connected with him, or any man for that matter, in my life. I kissed him and then buried my head in his chest as he hugged me and stroked my hair for what seemed like forever. And I know this might sound cheesy, but I felt like I was home for the first time in my life. 2 months later, she sent me a picture of her hand with a diamond ring and the caption, "I said yes. Thanks, little bro." But their story didn't end there. One morning, a few weeks before their wedding, Kat called me with a bombshell. "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God," she said. "Slade, you'll never believe the conversation I had last night with Ryan." She was so worked up, I couldn't tell if she was about to tell me something wonderful or something horrible. "Slow down," I said. "What happened?" We were laying in bed and he asked me to tell him a secret. We're very open with each other now, and I decided to tell him about the conversation you and I had and the harmless questions you told me to ask him. He didn't react at first. There was a long silence and I held my breath, and then he started grilling me with questions. He wanted to know when this all happened and where we were when I asked them. I told him it was that time we had brunch and went for a walk that day. He got really quiet and then said something I'll never forget. He swallowed hard and told me he had something to confess to me. He told me that day, he'd been planning to break up with me as soon as we got home. He had a whole plan worked out. He even gathered his things up from my place to make sure that he could get out in a hurry if I got mad and he had to run. But then he told me. As we sat there talking, out of nowhere, he became possessed with overwhelming feelings of love for me. He felt suffocated and confused for months at the thought of being with me, and in an instant, he suddenly felt clear about what he wanted. And then he panicked at the thought of losing me. He realized he was about to make the worst mistake of his life and made a promise to himself to never let me go. I was worried that he'd be mad that I'd somehow tricked him into falling for me, but he said he didn't care about that. He said all those questions did was get me in touch with the very real feelings I already must have had for you, but didn't know it. And I've been so happy since then, so at peace that I finally found the one person I want to be with for the rest of my life, that I don't really care what brought us together. I'm just grateful it did. And then Kat said something that shook me to the core. "Slade," she said, "I need to talk to you about something." "Okay," I said. "Well," she said, "this whole experience with Ryan and the thing you taught me opened my eyes to something about the way the world works. And it's kind of scary." I asked for her to go on. "Finding love and having that person love you back, it's not inevitable. It doesn't happen for everyone. And I came so close to missing my chance at love. I can see now that if you hadn't shared those insights with me and taught me the harmless questions, I would have driven Ryan away. And even if I did somehow find another guy that I felt crazy about, I can see how I would have gone on repeating the same pattern again and again and probably ended up alone. And there are so many amazing women out there who will come so close to finding their little piece of happiness like I have, but just because they don't know some simple things about how men work and what to say to trigger that deep bond of love in him, many of them will likely end up alone, or worse, settling for a man who isn't really invested in the relationship and doesn't really give her what she needs." "Okay," I said, "so what are you saying?" She knew I'd already started taking on female clients and teaching them the harmless questions that turn any man's feelings around and send him running into your arms. But she wanted me to do more. I was already spending more time with my clients than I thought was good for me and was starting to get burned out. "Well," she suggested, "what if you took those harmless phrases and everything you're showing your clients and package it up as an online course? That way you could reach women all over the world and you wouldn't have to increase your hours." I liked the idea, but I wasn't sure how to do some of the technical stuff. And so with my sister's help, I took everything I taught and shared with my $300 an hour private clients, and I put it all together into an easy-to-follow online program called Why Men Pull Away. Discover what he's really thinking, but would never tell you to your face. In it, I go through the exact reasons why men pull away, the various mistakes women make which drive their men further away, and the harmless questions for opening him up and drawing him to you like a high-powered magnet. Here's a small sample of what's inside this tell-all guide. The emotional can opener technique. for bypassing a man's walls and defenses and making him experience an intensity of love and attachment he never thought was possible. A lot of men are scared of these feelings and will do anything they can to avoid feeling them. But once they do, they're so grateful and wonder what they were ever afraid of in the first place. How to trigger a man's hunter-provider instincts, which make him want to win your love and do whatever it takes to make sure you feel completely loved and cherished. How to drop your mask with a man in a way that makes him want to be totally open and honest with you. The 5 stages of commitment, and how to know which one a man's in, and how to take him from one step to the next. Not knowing what stage a man's in is the #1 biggest mistake that makes women screw up their chances with a great guy. The secret to making him feel like he's king of the world, but only when he has you, his queen, by his side. And when he feels unstoppable with you, he'll count his lucky stars that you're choosing to be with him. The 6 red alert phases that shut down a man's ability to feel bonded to you. Avoid these at all costs or he'll never feel completely devoted to you, even if he desperately wants to. The mood magnet technique that fills him with such positive emotions, he'll be addicted to being around you, talking to you, texting you, and making sure you're happy. Plus, the secret fear that every man has, why he can't tell you about it, and the simple words that will reassure him and unleash his deepest affection for you, and much, much more. That's just a small sample of what's inside this groundbreaking program. Because it not only gives you the exact tools and techniques, the phrases and questions that get him obsessed, devoted, and completely focused on you as his prize, but it changes the way you think about men and about how to relate to them. Now, if you're watching this video right now, I know one thing about you. Whether you're between relationships and keep repeating the same patterns, you're just starting out with a new guy, or you've been in a relationship or marriage for many years, something's not working in your love life. And the fact that you're here watching this video means you're one of the few women who have the courage to admit that something's not working, which means you have a unique opportunity to change your romantic destiny. You see, the first step is admitting that things aren't perfect, and the second step is simply to make a decision that you're ready to try something different. So before we go on, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be really honest with me. Are you ready to change the way men respond to you? Do you want the power to turn a man's feelings for you on like a light switch? Or are you content to go on repeating the same patterns, making the same mistakes, and having men treat you the same way they always have? I can't answer this question for you, but if the answer is yes, and you're ready for a new chapter in your love life, then I want to invite you to be part of a small, private test group for my Why Men Pull Away program. You see, I charge $300 an hour to work with my clients one-on-one, and since I'm sharing the exact same strategies, tricks, and techniques I share with my private clients, I thought it was only fair to charge at least an hour's worth of my time for the program. So I originally set the price at $300, but as we were preparing to put this program out to the world, Kat took me aside and reminded me why we put it together in the first place. She reminded me of all the women who could really use this knowledge and that some of them might not have $300 to invest in something like this. And since I didn't want to be the difference between an amazing woman finding the love she deserves or not, I agreed to lower the price a bit just for a small test group of women to see what would happen. But I reserve the right to raise the price back up to $300 at any time. So if you're watching this right now, you have a spot reserved in the test group. If you're ready to take control of your romantic destiny while you're watching this video, you won't have to pay the $300 it would cost you to talk to me one-on-one for an hour. You won't even have to pay $250 or $225 or even $205. You can get access to the entire program that will change your relationships forever for just $47. Now, I think you'll agree that $47 is a ridiculously low price to pay for the chance to spend the rest of your life in the arms of a man who's deeply devoted to you and only you. But in order to make this special offer even more of a no-brainer, I'm also going to throw in some extremely valuable limited-time bonus programs. Bonus number 1 is called Communication Secrets for a Strong Long-Term Relationship with Renee Piani. You know communication is important, but how do you get through to a man who doesn't want to open up? You need to speak his language. Renee Piani shows you how to talk to your man in a way that forges a deeper and more lasting bond, and how to avoid the little misunderstandings that so often pull couples apart. Bonus number 2 is called How to Reignite and Maintain Long-Term Attraction with Marie Forleo. Marie Forleo is one of the most respected experts on love and success for women. And in this one-of-a-kind session with her, you'll discover the secrets to maintaining the passion, having a vibrant sex life, and even breathing new life into a relationship that's gone stale. She'll show you how to make changes in your relationship without coming across bossy, naggy, or demanding by making it his idea. Bonus number 3 is my Interviews with Men program. We surveyed over 20,000 women and asked them their most urgent and pressing questions about men, how they think, and what they want. We then asked the top questions to top dating experts and real men to find out what they had to say. If you want to know what a man's thinking right from the horse's mouth, you won't want to miss this. These bonus programs have been sold on their own for $37 each. And they're yours for free when you join the test group for Why Men Pull Away. Oh, and by the way, if you're on the fence as to whether or not this is something you want to invest in today, let me make it even easier for you to decide. Join us today, get access to the program and all the bonuses, and try it out with the men in your life. And if you don't see a total and complete transformation in how they respond to you, just shoot us an email within the first 60 days and we'll give you a full 100% refund. No questions asked. So now you have a decision to make. You could either forget you ever saw this video, go on doing things the way you always have with men and getting the results you've always gotten. You can take the insights you've had from this video and try to figure it all out on your own. Or you can let me save you time, money, and heartache. Simply click the button below the video and you'll be taken to a secure order page where we'll walk you through the checkout process. In minutes, you'll have access to Why Men Pull Away, all the bonuses, and a few extras I haven't told you about. And because they're digital, you don't have to wait for anything to come in the mail. And you don't need to pay any extra shipping or handling fees. The payment is processed by ClickBank, a trusted and secure platform that people use to sell all kinds of digital products, so you know your personal information will be private and safe. And with the 60-day no questions asked 100% money-back guarantee, you literally have nothing to lose. You could go through the entire program, use it, and completely turn your love life around and still ask for a refund, and I'd have no way of knowing. And I know a few people will take advantage of this, but I choose to believe that most people are basically good. And I'm willing to take a gamble that you're going to see such an amazing change in the way your man or men respond to you that you won't take advantage of me like that. So go ahead and click the button below to get started. Life is too short to stumble around and keep making the same mistakes over and over when the answer to your problems is right there in front of you. So let's get your new life started now. Click the button below, and I look forward to seeing you inside the private members-only area.